Manny, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
Thanks, bro. Happy to be here.
Let's go. I'm pumped, man. The first time I think I got introduced to y'all's product, Slate Milk, for anyone listening, and I'm excited for you to tell a little bit more about the brand, was through Brian Mazza at his HPLT event. We had it up there, and then I got to spend some time out in Denver with Eric Hinman, and again had more Slate. So been able to kind of have it in a couple different situations, but it's a really good product, and it's awesome what you guys are doing.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Mazza and Hinman, that whole community, like they've been awesome. Like whenever anyone joins our team, whether it's an investor, a partner, an employee, it always starts with the people, right? And within 5 minutes of talking to Mazza, I was like we got to get this guy involved. And then he introduced me to Eric. Got on a call with Eric. And we're like, we got to get this guy involved, and it just evolves. It's like a snowball. Like once you start building that thing, you get more and more people. It just gets bigger and bigger, and it's all from the people.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of snowballs, it's cool to see Eric make his little Slate snowball ice
I know.
cream out in Denver.
I know. Like when he does stuff like that, our whole team shares it, and it gets everyone fired up. It's funny how one piece of content, like the effort that goes into people making content or like thoughtful intros and just the little things in business, like regardless of who the person is, goes a long way. So no, Eric and that whole crew have been awesome.
Let's go, man. Well, yeah, dude, I'm excited to dive in here. I think, like I said, just first off, congrats to what you guys are doing, but you've taken a brand and remind me, you guys have been building this for about almost 5 years now.
So the idea started in late 2017. We went full time mid 2018, but we weren't founded until like late 2019. Like the business didn't even launch until about November. I think our birthday is 11/12. So November 12, 2019 was the day we actually launched the business. So just our third birthday a few months ago. But I mean, it takes a while to get going. Like for us, it was a lot of Googling in the early days. Like when people ask, like sometimes people ask Josh, my co-founder, and I, like, how do you start a business? Like where do you even start? And now I always tell people, if I told you I would give you $10,000 for to just in 30 days, just show me the bones of a business, like what would you do? It's like, I don't know, like Google things, ask people for help, like talk to my parents, like research, like I don't know. It's like that's just how it started, right? And for us, we knew we wanted a healthier chocolate milk. We found out about ultrafiltration, which is taking the lactose out of milk itself. We knew we wanted it shelf stable in a can. We found out about the retort process. We knew we wanted a brand that was modern and also told the story of we wanted to like help restart chocolate milk, make it healthier, give it a clean slate. That's where the name came from. And so it's just all these pieces in terms of like legally forming the company, just asking people we knew, found a great legal team. So it's just all these pieces of like, you need this to get going, you need this to get started, you need this to launch. We just started doing it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. We've been fortunate to have on, a couple of different founders from different companies, different industries. And I think that is a common theme that most of them do address is just like you just got to start. And a lot of them don't necessarily come from a background of have done doing it before. Maybe I don't know everything about your background, but it's just like, listen, you're probably not going to know every single thing that you need to know on day one. But if you don't attack day one and start day one, you'll never get to day 10 or
Right.
year three or like, what you guys are on now. So that's I think that's really good advice.
Yeah. And so for us, I was living in Brighton, Mass, and in my living room, we put up a whiteboard and we just broke it into like all these squares, and each square was just like different parts of the business, from branding to product to like supply chain to legal to like finance, all the different parts of the business. And we just put up notes of like what needed to get done. And we almost thought of it like a bunch of different chips on the table. And we just slowly, like every day, just pushing something forward. Because there's always, like, even today, right? Like, we've had a good amount of growth. We've been fortunate. It's still got a long way to go. And you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. But even today, there's always something that we can be doing. And so just every day, obviously, their priorities, task at hand, but like, what can we be moving forward? Especially like as the co-founder of a business, when like even if something is technically under Josh's reign or mine and he could be helping, it's just like there's always stuff that we can both be doing.
Yeah. I want to dive into that a little bit deeper because I think for, young entrepreneurs, anyone listening to this that's just starting a business, I think that's cool to hear your perspective of it from where you guys started to where you are now. And I would love to hear a little bit more about what the early days look like. You guys talk about kind of mapping it out on whiteboards and y'all are attacking it together. But how did those kind of early days look getting the brand off the ground?
Yeah. So I think it was October 2017 was the first time. So Josh and I were still working other jobs. I pitched to investors the idea, and because he had just made some beverage investments, and he was like, "That sounds interesting. Take a look at it." And it was just someone I met through the Northeastern network. Josh and I both went to Northeastern University, and that was the first. Literally, I think the first thing that I went home and did is Googled like chocolate milk market, which now we're not even necessarily attacking the chocolate milk market, right? It's the chocolate milk market compiled with like the RTD coffee market, RTD protein market. Like there's a lot more to it, but it was just looking at the market, just understanding what that market looks like. Because if you want to create a product and the market isn't there, it's gonna be very hard. Um, because if the market's not there, then you're going to have to reposition your product to attack a different market. And I think that's in the early days. What I think Josh and I stayed true to is the market. We knew what we wanted, but like, is the market actually there? And what we realized is that the chocolate milk market, I think at the time it was like 1.5 bill, which is decent. But what we realized is, all right, we want to also attack the RTD protein market, because that market at the time was probably 2x the size of the RTD, or the chocolate milk market. And then we started looking at the RTD coffee market, which is growing like crazy too. Right. And so we're like, all right, if we can attack all these markets, like these compiling markets, and take stomach space from a little bit of stomach space from each of them, then the actual TAM that we're addressing is much bigger than just the chocolate milk market. Because also when we started to dive into the chocolate milk market, call it, even at the time, call it 2 bill. Let's say half of that is multi-serve. We know we wanted single serve. We're already down to a billion. Let's say, at the time, probably 60% of the consumers, now it's up to 80, but call it 60% of consumers were decreasing sugar, but 40% didn't care. So those people that didn't care wouldn't drink our product. So now we're down to a $600 million market. And that's a $600 million market. A small portion of those are just people that are going to just stay true to their everyday routine. Call it half of those consumers. Now we're potentially down to a $300 million market. And that's just like, that's not an opportunity, right? And so in the early days, it was really taking a close look at that market to understand how we would have to position this product to hit a market that was large enough and growing, to actually have an opportunity. And I think that's kind of how we started forming what now is more of like a fitness brand, like a strength brand, which is Slate. In the early days, we were really like a healthy chocolate milk company, but we're still trying to attack the RTD protein market, RTD coffee market, and still part of that chocolate milk market. And then, so October 2017, first meeting, Josh, it took a lot of convincing with Josh. But he has always drank lactose-free chocolate milk just like me. Like, we were both former athletes in high school, drank a lot of chocolate milk. And then into college, both dabbled in protein powders, because we stopped drinking chocolate milk, started drinking the artificial protein powders. Made us both feel like crap, but you're in college. You want to get yoked, you want to lift a lot of weights, and
For sure.
drink as much protein as you could was the way to go. Way to go, as you know. And so he also, after college, we both went back to drinking lactose-free chocolate milk, high in sugar. We were already drinking it, and we just both realized that, and we're like we can do this better. So that was kind of like how the idea kind of came about and morphed in like both of our personal stories. And then in terms of the early days of actually starting the business, like I said, it was writing things on a whiteboard. It was a lot of Googling. It was cold calling people, just trying to figure out, like, we knew what we wanted. We just didn't know how to actually get there. So it was, we knew where we wanted to get to, but it's like, how can we make this possible? And if so, like, how do we actually do it?
Yeah, that's so fascinating. I'm sure you learned so much along the way. And I'm sure if I asked you even like, one lesson or thing that you guys challenged you early on that you maybe have learned from that you can share, like, is there something that comes to mind there? I'm sure there's a lot, but
Yeah, I mean, we we now, when we have a very tough decision to make, we go with our gut because, and I've said this before, but if you go with your gut and you're wrong, you're like, shit, like I was wrong. Like I went with my gut, and like everything that I have learned and everything that I've seen told me to do this, and it was wrong. But if you go against your gut and you're wrong, you're like, I knew it. Like I knew that was the incorrect path. I did it anyways, and I was wrong. So, you still got to weigh all the options. You still got to make sure you take your time, don't rush decisions. But at the end of the day, if there is a ticking clock and you got to make a decision, because of like starting a business it's like connect the dots, right? You're just kind of like jumping from dot to dot along the way. And you're gonna have a million different paths you can take on the business, whether
Yeah.
it's not doing something, whether it's doing something, whether it's hiring someone, whether it's partnering with someone. Like there are a million different paths. But if you got to make a decision and you're not, and it's literally a coin flip, you got to go with whatever your gut says, because there have been two times in the business, nothing extremely detrimental, but like two times in the business that Josh and I always talk about to ourselves, where we're like we knew it was the wrong thing to do, but for whatever reason, whether we got like Hollywooded, like just like sold very well and like the person, or for one reason or another, we just didn't go with our gut, and this hasn't happened recently. This is probably like within the last year or so. We learned. So definitely going with your gut, and then also just like can't make the same mistake twice.
Mm.
Can't do it. I think that's a key too. Is you're gonna mess up, and you're gonna get yourself in a hole where if you just didn't do something, you probably would have been better off. But you go with your gut, and then if you mess up, you can't make the same mistake twice.
That's super valuable. I love that. And I think that's something that, personally, I've definitely dealt with. And, as we've started to build this brand Kaizen we're working on now, it's like there's so many decisions, and we're obviously really early on into the brand, but there's so many decisions that you're like, what do we do here? And I think at the end of the day, when you come at a project, a brand, whatever it is that you're working on personally, and you care so much, and like you have so much passion and drive to like see it happen, then your gut, I feel like, tends to be right. Obviously there's certain things you just don't know, but at the end of the day, like you're saying, to your point, like at least you'll never look back and say, man, I thought that. And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, we've been fortunate now to have investors that have built businesses in the past, like Nick Rellis, co-founder of Drizzly, Peter Rahal, co-founder of RX Bar, founder of RX Bar, Doug Booten, co-founder of Halo Top. And, they've built successful brands, and they don't necessarily say it exactly like that, but it's a lot of what it comes down to is at the end of the day, it's a lot of times people are betting on founders, which is like what I'm sure you hear all the time. Like we hear it all the time too,
Sure.
because when you're building a business, there are so many decisions you have to make, and you're just, if you're investing in a company, you're betting on the fact that the founders are going to make the right call, where they're going to do their research, that they're going to get as much info as they can. But at the end of the day, a lot of investors are investing based on not only the data that they see in the business, but also their intuition, their gut. So yeah, it's that's one of the things we learned. I'm glad we learned early, better than late.
For sure. You touch on some really exciting investors that are associated with Slate. How important has that process been for you guys? One, from just like pure capital standpoint and scaling the brand, but to have like some strategic money and people that have been really experienced in their field to come in and apply some support and insight and value there.
Yeah. I mean, it's been huge, right? Like Josh and I, we always say like we like to think of ourselves as like scholars of the game. We don't know what we don't know. Like even some of the investors that I talked about, like we also have like the founders of Yasso, frozen Greek yogurt, like even people that I think we all think of as being successful and having quote unquote made it, or like they're still building, but they've had a lot of success. They are still so inquisitive. Like they also feel like they're still learning when they're talking to us, which is something we really appreciate. And I think that's another thing that we've learned is like, it doesn't matter how large or how successful someone is. They're always trying to learn from us in conversations. We feel like, even if it's something small. And so we try to like reflect that in every conversation that we go into. But like just being a sponge is so important, and just soaking up as much info as you can in every conversation. But in terms of having the people on the team, it's been huge, right? Because a lot of the mistakes that we might make, we can ask people and say, hey, did you have this? Did this happen to you? Like, what was that like? Right. And whenever Josh and I have a big decision to make, we'll just like blitz all of our investors and advisors. So like we have a couple other people on the team, like Lawrence Norman has been key to the brand. He was the old VP of basketball at Adidas. We have Laura Durba, who was the old North Atlantic regional president of Whole Foods Market. And it's just like we have people in brand that have built brands. We have people that have been on the grocery side. And the game's always changing, right? It's what it was like building Buy a decade ago. It's not the same building Slate today, but at
Sure.
the same time, we can hear about what the journey was like if they would have done anything differently and apply that to the decisions we have to make. So yeah, just having those people like that we can pick up the phone and call anytime, and all of them are just awesome, right? Like no one is like most of our investors and advisors, if we hit them up, unless they're on vacay, like they're hitting us back within a day, which is key. So yeah, I mean it's learning from people's mistakes, but also understanding that just because they like someone has experience and they've gone through it and they have an opinion on it, which is probably like if they're built brands, they're probably pretty passionate about their opinions, which is something we appreciate about founders. It's not always the right decision, right? Like no two brands are created equal. Like I said, the game's changing every day. But I think even when we ask for advice, even if we don't go with that advice, people they just want to see Slate succeed and just want to support however they can.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. When you guys went out to raise money, like a lot of companies talk about when they do raises, obviously money is money at the end of the day, but strategic money means so much more, going, a little bit further with just the value you get from that. What has been like the key instrument in getting that strategic money? Is it more relying on just good relationships and network, or how did you guys, get all these incredible people to invest and believe in Slate?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of the above. Like I think it's all timing too, right? Like everything. I think that's what a lot of founders we also talk to overstate and overthink is sometimes you just send the right email at the right time, and sometimes someone is just strapped for cash, or they're bought a new house or something like that. It's not even in this industry; it's in everything. Right? Like look at it in like sports. Like the right trade at the right time can flip an organization. The right draft pick at the right time, right? And if someone is in the market for a franchise quarterback, and you have someone great on the market, like you can't draft them, and you might set your franchise back a decade. So I think a lot of it is just persistence. Like for example, one of our earliest investors, Stu Klain, who I always say is like the grandfather I never wanted. No, just Stu's like one of our good friends now. He helped build Yasso frozen Greek yogurt, and his daughter Amanda Klain and his daughter's best friend Drew Harrington, who are the founders of Yasso, like they built that brand. But Josh, my co-founder, met Stu on a golf course.
Wow.
Like it's literally how it works. Like
Yeah.
Josh is good at golf, and this guy came up to him and asked him how he learned to play like that, and then Stu ended up joining the team, and the Yasa team ended up joining. So it's things like that. It's again just meeting people, being respectful of people, seeing how we can always help, and then they always like people are making intros to us all the time, and then sometimes again it's a LinkedIn message that's just well written. And like with Doug from Halo Top, I think it started on LinkedIn where his business partner just so happened to be drinking Slate or heard about Slate like within the week or so.
Wow.
And Doug's a savage. Like Doug is awesome. And he just a conversation here and there, just hearing his perspective, it's just helpful, right? Um, so it really has been like we have one investor named JJ who like he met like I don't know if it was like Tony Romo is not involved in Slate, but like met someone's like mother-in-law at a casino in Vegas and we ended up hopping on a call. Like it's just like people hear this. It's also having a great story because people hear the story and they want to get involved just and they like the product and the brand potentially. Not everyone does, but people that do like they think it's interesting, right? It's like a chocolate milk protein shake in a can that tastes good, and you don't just have to have it after workout. So I think the kind of like head tilt factor of it has also helped, where it's people think of it as differentiated from things in the market. But yeah, no, it's really all of the above. And I don't think Josh and I think of ourselves as like master networkers or anything. It's it's just people being awesome and wanting to help.
That's so cool. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's super valuable. I'm curious though, as you guys have scaled your company, there's a lot of brands out there. Brands are launching every day. We live in a world right now with social media where everyone's like, I'm just gonna throw this idea up and see if I can make sales. And like that's great. But you guys have had a tremendous success in scaling your company in a very short amount of time compared to a lot of other brands. What do you think some of the key factors are in scaling a company and like obviously bringing the idea to market, getting it going, but then taking strategic steps to actually scale exponentially instead of just
Yeah.
slowly?
We are trying to build a brand. We're not trying to sell products. At the end of the day, I think that there are plenty of successful people out there that launch products, sell products, and then move on. And it's just one way to go. But I think for us, we think not only 3 months in the future, but also 3 years in the future. And there are some decisions that we make that might be growing a little bit slower, but we want to protect the brand. Like we want people to hear about us or see us or use us for the first time on our terms, not necessarily like we could launch a crap load of different products across and just like try to blast out online. But we want people to think about us in a certain way, and we want to try to control that messaging as much as possible. And so what we've done is we're mostly a retail first brand, but when we launch in certain areas, we kind of blitz that market with digital as well. So it's digital, like what Josh and I always joke that like the marketing team job is to make sure people know what the heck Slate is, and the sales team's job is to make sure that when they go into a store, they see it, right? So we combine digital marketing, which is not only like partners slash influencers, like the people we started talking about, but also just digital paid, anything that we can try to do to get the word out there about Slate, what it is, send the message, get people familiar with what the can looks like. And then in the store, we have a team of absolute studs that go into the stores, what we call area sales managers, and build displays, get additional placements, work with the store managers to just try to make sure that we're seen in the stores. And that combination is how we've really been able to grow. And then we always say like marketing, make sure people know what the heck it is, and the right people, right? Like we want to try to find people that are, even if they're not fitness forward, they're healthy minded, right? We want to try to find people that do care that it's in a recyclable can. We're 100% plastic neutral. Our audience right now isn't necessarily already scooping artificial protein powder into a shaker bottle and shaking it up. It's the individual that might care a little bit more about what they're putting into their bodies. And so we try, like Anna Carr is our head of partnerships. Her and Morgan and our team do a great job of just trying to find people who embody our brand and what we're all about. And then the sales team's job is, again, just to try to get the product in front of people and drive like cans in hands. And then at the end of the day, it's up to the product to bring people back for more, right? You can have liquid on one side, you can have liquid gold, but if no one knows it freaking exists, no one's going to pick it up off the shelf or buy it online. And you can have the best marketing strategy on the planet. You can get it in front of everyone. You can build this crazy buzz with enough dollars. But if the product sucks, people aren't going to come back for more. But if you have both, like that's a business. Like that's a brand. And I think one of the ways we've been able to grow is my eighth grade basketball coach used to always say, "Be quick, don't hurry." So we want to grow at a pace where investors are excited. We are keeping up with demand, and we're continuing to grow and kind of striking while the iron's hot, because I think that we've hit our, like, the brand market fit and product market fit are the two things that we always talk about. And I think that we're still proving out both, but I think that we've had a lot of success in proving both of those things. So we want to, the time is now, but also growing too quick, you just get growing pains, right? Whether it's not being able to stock the shelves properly, whether it's not giving enough time for a certain market to start to hear about Slate, things like that. And so it's always just balancing that growth path where there's no right or wrong way. There's no right or wrong speed, because every brand's different. But right now, Josh and I always talk about pace. We talk a lot about pace, and we're trying to control that pace as we speak.
Wow, that's great. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I think there's a lot of cool things that I want to kind of unpack there. One in particular, and you kind of touched on this, but your overall message is really just you got to build a brand. You can't worry about necessarily just, making sales and everything. Like that's a part of the equation. But at the end of the day, for like longevity purposes and building something sustainable, the brand has to be a focus. With I guess my question is in regards to like partnerships and influencers and different things of that world where the brand I think is so prevalent and so much in that conversation. How have you guys gone about that strategy? And what are some things you guys look for in a partnership or an influencer to work with and promote and be associated with the brand?
That's a good question. So it always starts with the individual person that we might be partnering with. Like, do we believe we have the same values? Right? Like, do we think that they care about what we care about? Which, again, it starts with being healthy minded, like regardless of appearance. It starts with being healthy minded. It also has a lot to do with authenticity. I think that if we think that someone, like obviously on social media, people are showing, like you hear about people showing that like the top 1% of their lives. Obviously, you're not going to see everything. You're not going to see someone snoring with their mouth open. But at the same time, like, do we think that when this person speaks, like they are telling the truth and they're speaking truthfully? We being authentic is just like something true to like our brand values. Like internally, we talk a lot about like trust and respect. Like that's how we all think about each other. Like we all want to trust each other and respect each other. That's who we bring on the team, and we want to feel the same about our partners. So are they being real? And then after that, it's either we're talking to like an agent or a manager, or we're talking to the individual themselves. If we're talking to an agent or a manager, can we work with them?
Hmm.
And we'll know probably within 2 minutes. Most of the time, like most people we talk to, and again, I want to speak for AC. So Anna Carr, AC, she runs partnerships. I don't want to speak too much for her, but I think most of the people that she talks to and we talk to overall, I'd say are great. But like if you're an a-hole and like if we feel as though an agent or a manager is trying to like win the deal, we just won't engage. Like that's just not the type of relationship that we're looking for. And what's frustrating sometimes is even if the partner themselves might be a freaking homie, perfect fit, like they seem awesome. If your representation is too money hungry. Like we want a fair deal, right? Like we don't want to win the deal. We want you to win the deal. Like this is a partnership. And I think sometimes the way that people are wired is like everyone's a salesperson, right? They want to get as much money as possible, which we understand. We obviously want the deal to be as affordable as possible while still making sure that the partner understands that they're valued. So it's all about balance. But if we are talking to an individual that we just feel as though it might be difficult to work with them, like the manager, a lot of times we will just move on because it's not worth our team's time. Like everyone on the team is already overworked, right? We're a team of about 40 now and everyone's just like grinding. So it's just not something that we usually engage in. And then when it comes to the individual themselves, like again, it starts with, is this person the right fit? Like, are they healthy minded? Are they into fitness? Is there anything like maybe they're lactose intolerant? Like, what is their actual story? Like, does that fit into our story? Could we like whether we could be friends with them or not? Like, we would love to be able to be friends with them. Maybe we have different interests, but do they genuinely love the product? Is like the final gatekeeper, because we will not work with people who don't love the product because people can see right through that. And also, if that person doesn't like the product and their following or even like their close friends start asking them about it, and on social media they're like, "This stuff's awesome," and then behind the scenes they're like, "This stuff sucks," where everyone's time is being wasted. So fortunately, I'd say that doesn't happen very often.
Yep.
Sometimes you get someone every once in a while. It's just like, I just don't like chocolate, and we're like, you should see a doctor. There's something wrong with you. No, I'm just kidding. But but yeah, no, it starts with like, are they real? Do they embody our brand? And do they love the product?
That's very valuable. I actually had this similar conversation with my co-founder last night, Lucas. We were talking about that exact thing with managers coming in the deal. And it's like, at the end of the day, if this becomes a brand deal and it's just an exchange of money for a post, it's like, it's not going to do well for
Right.
anyone. And I think,
Yep.
when you can align with people that genuinely, love the product. I use Eric for an example because I'm closer with Eric Hinman. Like you can tell he genuinely loves Slate. and he
Yeah.
incorporates it organically in everything he does. He's got an incredible personal brand where people trust what he says because he never works with anyone that he doesn't truly believe in, and you can see
Right.
that.
Right. No, totally agree. And I think it's the same for, like, again, even if it's like we now work with a ton of college athletes, right? Like, I mean, I think of part of the reason that Josh and I started Slate is like we would have drank this in college. Like it
For
came in,
sure.
it's perfect. And like I probably in college, and Josh too, would have reached out to Slate and tried to become like an NIL athlete. And we always joke, I don't know if we would have been accepted the program. I don't know if we're cool enough. No, I'm just kidding. But it's about finding the people that are passionate about the product and we think would like it, because those are the people that talk about it, right? Those are the people that become your ambassadors, your super fans. And again, it doesn't matter how big you get. Like brand is always built first and foremost by people, by word of mouth, by partners, by, again, whether it's a mother of two down in Florida that has 485 followers on Instagram, but they all like love and trust her, and they're all going to Publix and buying, or whether it's your Brian Mazes, your Eric Hinmans, your Josh Dixon is an investor in Slate. He was a former Olympian, um, gymnast. Like he loves the product. It's a combination of all of these folks.
For sure. What has your, like personally, what has your favorite or most rewarding, fulfilling moment been so far building this brand? I know you guys probably have a long way to go and a lot of things you want to accomplish, but up to this point, what has stuck out to you has been something that's really fulfilled you as a founder building this brand?
I mean, it's pretty cool to see that we removed, I think it's 13,000 pounds of plastic from the planet, and
Wow.
we to date have not put a pound of plastic back into the world without removing a pound of plastic. We're a plastic neutral business, and we, especially early and still now, like there will always be pressure to do things in a more affordable way because people think it's better for business, and people think that more dollars means better business. But you see it all the time, and the way that Josh and I see it is that like we've always stayed true to the can. We have a new product line coming out. I think we're actually, the soft launch is today, where it's going to be out of a can. But it's still a plastic neutral product, and I think that is pretty freaking cool. That even through the post pandemic 2021 2022, where prices were crazy and supply chain was nuts, and I mean I'd be lying. I think any beverage founder would be lying if they said they didn't explore different types of packaging or finding significantly more affordable ways to make their product, but staying true to the can, staying true to our plastic neutrality. I think it's not necessarily like a moment, but it's just like it's one of those things that's pretty freaking cool. And I think that part of the brand's mission, and part of the reason we created the brand is we are able to make these decisions to not not completely change the way that we deliver our product, just to make it a little bit more affordable,
Mm,
and continue to stay true to our plastic neutrality and not adding any plastic to the world. I think that's pretty cool that we're able to grow, and we, again, long way to go, but we're able to grow like we have and continue to be plastic neutral and a sustainable business.
I think that's interesting. And it's something that I feel like a lot of people don't think about on the surface level. But if you can make decisions while short term, they might not give you the highest profit margin, but long term, it's going to create like a subconscious decision from a customer to be loyal to the brand and just have a deeper connection with the brand because of something they stand for, which will then increase sales. Like there's a lot of ways to kind of look at that, but I think that's actually a really interesting way to look at that.
Yeah. And again, I think everyone in the last 2 years has thought about making significant changes to cut costs. And we'll always try to make the product as like you want your GMs to be as high as possible, obviously. But no, I think it's been pretty cool to continue to grow and remain plastic neutral.
For sure. Where is Slate headed? I know you guys, I'm sure, excited for a great year, getting going. But where are you guys headed? What are some exciting things you're working on? And yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, I think last year, I think it was public that we were in like 5,000 doors. By the end of this year, we should be in 10,000. So this year, our door count should double. This year, we've really been focused on Northeast, East Coast, like down in Florida, up and down the East Coast this year. As we expand this year, I think you're gonna start seeing Slate all over the country, which I think is exciting. Um, Even just with like new partnerships, like it was announced, like Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat, Terrence Mann of the LA Clippers, like they came on as investors, and like those dudes are awesome. Continue to add new partners to the team. We're talking about larger partnerships. I think it's just, again, continue to grow, but not too quick. Be quick, don't hurry. Continue to build the brand all over the country. Um, we have a new product line coming out shortly. I think will be great. It's a little bit more uh, travel safe. Like when I travel anywhere, I can't bring cans with me, so this is something that I'll be able to take with me, which is great. And it's just continue to grow the business, right? And I think that what we're doing, we always be doing better, but what we're doing right now is just working in terms of our marketing paired with our sales strategy. We got badasses that are in operations, which, man, that supply chain with liquid dairy products, not easy, but Justin, Lanai, Tor, like they grind. They do an awesome job, and it's just kind of like this wheel, right? It's just like you got to make the product, you got to make people know it's aware, you got to make people know it exists and market the product. You got to sell the product, and then you got to pay for the product to make the next batch, and it's just this wheel, right? It's just as simple as finance, ops, marketing, sales, and that's just executing on the strategy. I think that we're always refining the strategy. That's what my co-founder Josh and I talk about every day. It's like our strategy, um, high level, day of, like certain meetings, like all like whether we're talking about 18 months in the future, whether we're talking about a meeting we have tomorrow, which we're literally going to be talking about after this. It's just creating the strategy and then going out and executing on that strategy. But I think that creating the strategy is what's key, because then you have something to execute on. And it's not necessarily like a hard goal. Like we need to hit this in sales. It's like, what is the overall path? Like, are there certain accounts we want to go get? Then let's go get them.
Yep.
Right. Like if we want, is there a certain investor we want to talk to? Let's go talk to them. Right. And it's like, I think that's what we've been able to do, is just like if there's someone that we want to talk to, if there's an account we want to get, and like there's still some we can't get, right? Like we're like everyone, like we're not 100% hit rate. But I think that once we set our mind to wanting to get something, it's like, how do we get there? Like once we set that dot, like this is the dot we want to go to, like what's the line to get to that next dot? So yeah.
I think that's really helpful, because I think a lot of times when you start the business, when you start the brand, even as you grow, it can be easy to get overwhelmed with how many things are there. But I think, like you said, having some sort of strategy or plan to be able to focus and then truly execute on that, I think it makes a ton of sense. And I think that's really, really powerful. Last question for you, man. I really appreciate your time. This has been
Yeah.
super, super fun. And you've dropped an incredible amount of wisdom and knowledge on this episode. But if you could give one piece of advice to early entrepreneurs getting in the game, trying to get their thing going, what would that be? What would you tell them?
I would say that, so, I mean, if you have a co-founder, which I would never start a business without a co-founder, your relationship with your co-founder is more important than your relationship with your business. We see it all the time of co-founder splits, and like it's businesses can still be fine. But in the early days, like finding the right business partner, like Josh is my freaking guy. Like that, my relationship with Josh is more important than than like the business, because like Josh and I still now are like building the business together, and like we, again, the team, there's no business without the team. But finding someone that will challenge you in the right way, but also like splitting up who is kind of making quote unquote final call, and then understanding that if there's a disagreement, like they need to come to terms with it. Because Josh and I always have the saying, we always say NLB, never look back. Like when we make a decision, we will not waste even if it's right or wrong, we will not waste a minute in the future talking about the past. Like there's no reason to, unless it's like, can we like discuss that and learn from it, and can that help a future decision? Otherwise, like if you make a wrong call, like hanging your head on that, like it's not going to do any good. But that like philosophy, like the NLB philosophy, is because of my relationship with Josh. And like I know, like even if it's something marketing ops, like brand that I oversee, and like shit, that probably wasn't the right move. Like he's got my back. And if it's something like sale, like on his side of the business, like sales, he oversees finance. Um, if it's something where it's like, man, we probably could have done that differently, like I got his back. And like that relationship, like knowing that you have each other's backs, like you got like business is a battle, like every day. It doesn't matter what size you are. Like even the biggest like look at Chobani, like they're battling, right? Like they had a bunch of people leave last year. Even publicly traded companies, you can see it everywhere. Businesses always battle, and like you got to remember the person that you have next to you. If you guys lose trust in each other, it's gonna be freaking hard. So especially in the early days, like you're picking your partner for battle, and just even if things go wrong in a business, choosing that partner over like and not holding a grudge, it's freaking huge. And don't look back. Never look back.
Let's go. Dude, thank you so much, man. I really
Hey man.
appreciate that. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm so excited to see all the things you guys crush in 2023 with Slate, and our whole community definitely will support you guys. And yeah, we really appreciate you doing this, man. This means a lot.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Cool.